I never thought I'd be one of those guys telling his story about how he got screwed over by his wife, but here I am. My name, Jack, and I've been with Lisa for about 8 years now. We've always had a pretty solid relationship, nothing perfect, but I thought we were in it for the long haul. We got married, bought a house, and I even put a lot of effort into making it safe for both of us, especially after the world started going to hell with all the talk of nuclear threats and natural disasters. So I built a bomb shelter in the backyard, nothing fancy, just a reinforced room with a secure door, a ventilation system, and some supplies to keep us alive if the worst ever happened. I'd like to say I did it out of some paranoid obsession, but honestly, it was more about peace of mind. Lisa wasn't the kind of woman who'd ever admit she was worried about anything like that, but I knew she was pretty dismissive when it came to safety. Still, I thought that was our insurance, you know. I installed high-definition security cameras around the house, including inside the shelter, so I could monitor everything from my phone. It was a little obsessive maybe, but I figured better safe than sorry. Things started feeling a little strange about 3 months ago. Lisa's attitude changed. She was more bitchy, snapping at me over small things. She'd roll her eyes when I talked about the security system or the renovation plans. I caught her lying a few times, small stuff at first, like she'd say she was going out with friends, but then I'd see her sneaking out late at night. She'd come home smelling like perfume I didn't recognize, and she'd brush off my questions with some smart-ass comment about how it was none of my business. Still, I let it go, thinking maybe I was just being paranoid because of all the stress from work and the house renovations. But then, about a week ago, I noticed something weird. I was just sitting in the living room when I decided to check the security footage from the night before. I'd been suspicious, so I replayed the footage from Tuesday night. That's when I saw her, Lisa, in the backyard, sneaking around the side of the house. I paused the video and zoomed in. What I saw made my stomach turn. She was in the backyard at around midnight and she was with Kevin, our contractor, the guy who's been helping with the basement and the new kitchen. I knew Kevin. He's a decent guy, but I'd never seen him look at Lisa like that or act so intimate. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. They were in the alley behind the house, and from the way she was touching him, I could tell it wasn't just a friendly chat. I saw them kiss, and then she was practically climbing on him. I immediately rewound and watched again, trying to find some mistake, but there was no denying it. My wife was cheating on me with the guy I hired to help improve our home. That was the moment I realized everything I believed about her, about us, was a lie. She had been lying about her late nights, about her nights out, even about her supposed feelings for me. She was screwing around with Kevin behind my back, and I had the footage to prove it. I felt a mix of rage, betrayal, and utter devastation. The woman I trusted, who had built her entire identity on being loyal and honest, had been sneaking around with our contractor. The very guy I'd been trusting with the renovation, the guy I'd even talked to about how important safety was for our family, was now the man she was hiding in the dark. That's when I knew I had to confront her, but I also knew I had to be smart. Because this wasn't just about her cheating. It was about every promise she'd ever made, every moment I thought was real. And I was furious that she'd betrayed me in what I thought was the safest place in the world, our home, especially the bomb shelter I built to protect us all. I couldn't sleep that night. My mind kept circling back to that footage. I kept watching it over and over, trying to make sense of it all. It felt like a punch in the stomach every time I saw her with Kevin, like I was watching some twisted, bad movie I couldn't escape from. The more I thought about it, the more I realized how deep this betrayal ran. She had lied for months, probably longer, about where she was, who she was with, what she was doing. I had trusted her with my life, with my heart, and she'd been screwing around with our contractor right under my nose. The cold truth was that she'd been hiding this from me, probably because she knew I'd be furious, maybe even leave her. I was angry, but mostly I felt like my world was collapsing. I didn't want to believe she'd do this, not to me, not to us. I'd always been a loyal guy, worked my ass off to give her a good life, bought her things she said she wanted, built her a home she could be proud of. And for what? For her to cheat on me with Kevin, a man I'd always thought of as a decent, straightforward guy, that was a slap in the face. I'd been stupid enough to assume my wife was faithful, that her love was real. Turns out it was just a facade, a mask she wore to keep up appearances. The next day, I decided I had to talk to her. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but I couldn't ignore what I saw. I waited until she came home from her girls' night out, which she claimed was just drinks and dinner with her friends. She looked irritated, annoyed at everything. I knew she'd been lying about that too. When she came through the door, I just looked at her and said, "We need to talk, now." Her eyes narrowed, that typical bitchy look she always threw when she thought she was being accused of something. She rolled her eyes and snapped, "What now, Jack? Can't a woman have her own night without you blowing a gasket?" I took a deep breath, then dropped the footage on her phone. I played the video, watching her face drain of color as she saw herself in the act. Her reaction was priceless: disbelief, then anger, then defiance. She crossed her arms and shot back, "That's bullshit, Jack. That's not what it looks like. You're just seeing things. You're paranoid. Kevin and I are just friends. It's nothing serious." I stared at her, feeling the shock and the rage bubble up together. Nothing serious, really. Then what was all that touching, the kissing, the sneaking around behind my back? "You think I'm stupid?" Her eyes flicked to the side and she started with, "The usual bullshit. You're overreacting. You don't understand what stress I've been under. Kevin, been like a brother to me. You're just jealous. It's all in your head." Honestly, I wanted to believe her. I wanted her to just come clean, admit she'd fucked up and we could maybe work through it. But she didn't. Instead, she doubled down. Told me I was insecure, that I was imagining things, that I was crazy for even suspecting her. She told me I was just paranoid because I was stressed with work in the house, that I was pushing her away. I could see how much she hated being caught, how much she hated that I'd found out, like I'd ruined her fun or whatever sick game she was playing. That's when I knew I couldn't trust her anymore, not really. She was a liar, a manipulator, and I was furious at myself for not seeing it sooner. I felt a deep, raw pain, like I'd been punched in the chest. I'd never felt so betrayed in my life. I thought I'd known her, thought she was loyal and faithful. Instead, she was just another woman who hid her true self behind a mask. For a long moment, I just stared at her, feeling like I was in some bad dream I couldn't wake up from. I wanted to scream, cry, punch something all at once. But all I could do was stand there, trying to process the fact that my wife had been cheating with Kevin, right under my nose, and I had no idea. Just like that, everything I believed about our marriage was shattered. The silence in the room was deafening after I played that footage. Her face was a mask of defiance, but I could see her eyes flickering with that familiar flicker of guilt, of knowing she'd been caught in her lie. I felt my fists clench, my mind racing with a million thoughts. Part of me wanted to grab her, shake her, demand she tell me the truth, what the hell was going on, why she'd betray me like this. But another, more cold part of me knew that I needed to be smart about this. Confronting her right there wasn't going to solve anything. It would just make things worse. She started with her usual nonsense. "You're just being paranoid, Jack. You don't understand how stressed I am. Kevin's always been there for me. We're just friends, nothing more." But I wasn't buying it, not anymore. I looked her straight in the eyes and said, "You've been lying for months. I saw you kissing him, touching him, sneaking around my house at midnight like a couple of teenagers. How stupid do you think I am?" She rolled her eyes, throwing her hands up in exasperation. "Oh, please, you're overreacting. Kevin and I are just friends, and I don't have to explain myself to you. You're so insecure, Jack. Always paranoid about everything. Maybe you should focus more on your job instead of spying on me." That bitchiness in her voice made my blood boil. I could tell she was trying to dismiss everything, brush it off as if it was just a misunderstanding. But I knew better. I saw what I saw. I took a step closer, trying to keep my voice steady. "No, Lisa, you don't get to brush this off. I've been blind for too long, but I'm not blind anymore. I saw you kissing him, touching him. That's not just a friendly hug or some innocent chat. You've been cheating on me, and I want to know why." Her eyes narrowed further. "You're crazy, Jack. You're always accusing me of stuff I haven't done. Maybe you're the one cheating, huh? Maybe this is just your little way of messing with me because you're insecure." Her words hit like a punch. It was classic gaslighting: deny, deflect, accuse me of being the guilty one, but I wasn't falling for it anymore. I was tired of her lies, tired of her bullshit. I told her to pack her things and leave. Not because I wanted her to go, no, that was just what I thought I should do in that moment. I wanted her gone because I couldn't stand the sight of her, not anymore. I needed space to breathe, to think. She looked at me with that bitchy smirk, like she thought she was in control, like she was getting away with it, but I knew her game now. That night was a blur. I sat alone in the living room, staring at the wall, trying to process everything. The betrayal was like a wound that kept opening up. I felt empty, angry, and so damn hurt. I kept replaying her words, her denial, her accusations, her lies. I couldn't understand how she could be so callous, so selfish, so willing to throw away everything we'd built for a quick fuck with Kevin. That thought hurt worse than anything. I realized then that I had to do something. I couldn't just let her walk away like this, not without consequences. I started planning my next move, my revenge, because I didn't want her to think she could get away with this. The trust was gone, but I wanted her to pay in some way. I knew I had the footage, I had the proof, and I knew I was going to use it. I didn't know exactly what that would look like yet, but I knew one thing. I was done being the naive guy who trusted blindly. From that moment on, I was playing my own game, and Lisa was about to find out just how far I was willing to go. The days that followed were a whirlwind. I stayed up late every night, digging into everything I could about Kevin, about her, about how I'd let this happen. I started to realize that this wasn't just about a quick affair. Lisa was good at hiding her true nature. She'd always been bitchy, manipulative, and selfish, but I'd never really seen her for what she was until now. She was a liar, a master at spinning stories, and a total narcissist. The kind of woman who would lie in your face and still expect you to believe her because she was talking softly or looking innocent. Wrong. I'd seen her true face now, and I wasn't about to forget it. One thing I did was install a new, hidden camera in the bomb shelter. The thing I'd built for our safety turned out to be the perfect place for her sneaky affairs. I knew she'd be back there, probably trying to cover her tracks, or maybe just because she thought she was safe from prying eyes. I wanted her to think she was still in control, but I was ready. I recorded everything from that point on, her sneaking out at night, her whispered conversations with Kevin, her little touches when she thought no one was looking. I was gathering proof, and I knew I'd use it when the time was right. It was a sick feeling, knowing I was spying on my own wife. But I couldn't trust her anymore. I started to feel like the fool I'd been all these years. She'd always been bitchy, yes, but I thought that was just her personality. Turns out, she was just hiding her true self, selfish, vindictive, and willing to cheat on me with someone I trusted. I kept telling myself I'd never be that guy who sits around and takes this kind of shit, so I started planning a move. A way to make her regret what she'd done, to make her see how much she'd screwed up. I knew I couldn't just kick her out. No, that wouldn't be enough. I wanted her to understand that she'd crossed a line, that her betrayal had consequences. So I reached out to Kevin, softly at first, pretending to be interested in knowing what the hell was going on. I wanted to hear his side, just enough to confirm everything I suspected. Turns out Kevin was just as guilty, caught up in her lies, probably thinking he was some kind of hero for helping her or whatever twisted excuse she'd tell him. I didn't care anymore. All I knew was that I had enough dirt to make her life a living hell if I wanted. Next, I decided to take control of the situation. I started by confronting her again, not with anger this time, but cold, calculated calm. She came home that evening, sulking and bitchy as usual. I looked her straight in the eyes and said, "You think you're clever, huh? Sneaking around my house like a thief, pretending everything's fine. Well, I've got news for you. Your little affair with Kevin isn't going to stay hidden for long." Her face twitched with confusion, then panic. She started to lie, of course, talking about how she was just trying to clear her head, how Kevin was just a friend who helped her with the house, and that I was just blowing things out of proportion. I let her talk, but I didn't say a word. I just kept the footage on my phone, ready to show her exactly what I had. That's when I told her I knew everything, about her cheating, about her lies, about how she'd been screwing around behind my back. Her eyes widened, and I saw that bitchy, manipulative mask crack just a little. She started crying, but it was fake, I knew it. She threw a fit about how I was destroying our marriage, how she still loved me, and how I was overreacting because I was insecure. Yeah, right, I'd heard enough. I told her she better pack her shit and leave, and if she didn't, I'd be the one to make her leave. That night she stormed out, throwing her purse down and yelling some bullshit about how I was making her life a living hell. But I didn't care anymore. I knew I had the power now. The footage, the proof, the knowledge. I sat there alone in the dark, feeling a strange mix of relief and rage. Relief because I finally knew the truth, and rage because she'd shattered everything I believed in. All those years I thought she loved me, that she was faithful, that was just a lie. I realized I'd been living in a fantasy, and now I had to face the cold, hard reality. But I also knew I was done being a victim. I was angry, and I was going to make her regret this. Whatever revenge I was planning, I knew one thing: she'd never see it coming. She had played her game, and now it was my turn. I wasn't just going to let her walk away. She'd pay for what she did somehow. I didn't know exactly how yet, but I was about to find out. And that thought kept me going as the night stretched on. The days after she left were a blur of planning and reflection. I spent hours going over every piece of footage I had, every little detail she thought she was hiding. My house suddenly felt emptier, colder, like the walls were watching me. I knew I had her on video, caught red-handed, kissing, touching, sneaking around my own backyard at midnight. It was one thing to suspect, another to see it in living color. That footage was my leverage, my proof, and I wasn't going to let her take it away from me. I also made sure to keep the recordings accessible, hidden away in a secure location, just in case I needed to show someone or use it as blackmail. Before she left, I had the chance to confront Kevin directly. I called him that same night, acting calm but cold. I told him I knew what he'd been up to with Lisa, that I had the footage, and that if he wanted to keep his reputation intact, he'd better stay out of my way. I didn't threaten him outright, but it was clear I knew everything. Kevin tried to play innocent, claiming he didn't think it was a big deal, that Lisa was just lonely, and that he never meant for it to get this serious. I just told him to stay the hell away from us, and that if I found out he was still involved, I'd make sure everyone knew what kind of man he really was. Meanwhile, Lisa was still trying to spin her story, calling me from her new apartment, crying, begging, trying to convince me she still loved me. She insisted that she was just feeling overwhelmed, that things between us had been strained for a long time, and that Kevin was just a distraction. She told me how much she hated herself for what she did, how she'd never hurt me intentionally. But I knew better. I'd seen her true face now, bitchy, manipulative, and selfish. I wasn't buying her tears. I'd heard her lies enough times to recognize when she was just acting out of guilt or trying to manipulate me. I decided I'd had enough of her lies and fake apologies. I told her I was done with her excuses, her tears, her manipulations. I told her she'd ruined everything, and I was going to make sure she paid, not necessarily with revenge, but with a wake-up call. I wanted her to understand that betrayal like this doesn't just get swept under the rug. It leaves scars. I told her that she was done in my life, that I was filing for divorce, and I'd be taking full custody of the house and everything else. I wanted her to feel the weight of what she'd lost, her marriage, her home, her respect. The hardest part was realizing how deeply I'd been betrayed. I'd built my life around trust, around the idea that we were partners, that I could count on her. And I'd been blind. She'd been hiding this affair for months, maybe longer. She lied about her nights out, her feelings, her loyalty. Now I was left with nothing but the ruins of what I thought was our life. It was a bitter pill to swallow, knowing the woman I loved, the woman I married, was capable of such deception. But I also knew I couldn't stay in that state forever. I had to move on, rebuild, and learn from this disaster. I started to think about what I'd do next. The house, the security system, the footage, all of it was a weapon now. I could use it to protect myself, to keep her from twisting the story, or even to make her pay in her own way. I wasn't going to be a victim. I was angry, yes, but I also felt a strange sense of liberation. I realized I'd been living in her shadow for too long, trying to keep everything perfect. That illusion was gone now, and for the first time in years, I felt like I was free to do what I really wanted, stand tall, take control, and make her regret what she did. As I sat there in the quiet, I made a vow to myself. I wouldn't let her manipulate me anymore. I'd take back my life piece by piece. I was hurt, yes, but I was also stronger than I'd ever been before. This betrayal had broken my heart, but it also made me see what I was capable of. I was no longer the naive husband who believed in fairy tales. I was a man who knew his worth, who could rebuild what was lost, and who was ready to face whatever came next. And honestly, that realization was both terrifying and empowering. The process of moving on wasn't easy, but it was necessary. I started by changing everything, changing my phone number, updating my security system, and making sure all the footage I had was locked down tight. I didn't want her anymore, not in my life, not in my house, not in my mind. I filed for divorce, and the legal process was as brutal as I expected. Lisa did everything she could to manipulate the situation, throwing her bitchy tantrums and trying to spin her narrative. But I kept my cool. I had the proof, and I knew I had to use it wisely. The final blow came when I presented the footage in court. Seeing her face on that video, caught sneaking around at midnight kissing Kevin, was a moment of catharsis. She looked stunned, then furious, then resigned. Her lies crumbled piece by piece. The judge saw the evidence too, and that sealed her fate. She lost custody of the house and almost everything else, and I got full custody of the house and the kids. I wasn't just doing it for revenge, but deep down, I knew it was about reclaiming my life, my dignity. Looking back, I realized this experience changed me. It's made me more cautious, more guarded, but also more aware of people's true nature. I learned that even the most bitchy, manipulative women can hide their true colors for years if you're blind to it. I also learned that trust isn't something to give lightly anymore. You have to protect yourself, your heart, your life, because not everyone is worth it. I don't hate Lisa. I feel sorry for her, honestly. She's the kind of woman who's so full of herself she can't even see her own flaws. Maybe she thought she'd get away with it forever, but karma has a way of catching up. As for Kevin, I hope he learned a lesson about who he's willing to screw over, literally and figuratively. For me, I'm focusing on rebuilding what's left of my life, better, stronger, more cautious than ever. This whole mess has taught me. One thing, betrayal cuts deep, but it also forces you to face the truth about yourself. I've come out of it with scars, yes, but also with a clearer understanding of what I want and what I refuse to tolerate. I still love my house, my kids, my life. I won't let her or anyone else take that away. She betrayed me, and I hope she's miserable now, knowing she lost a good man who finally saw her for what she really was. And so, I move forward. Not the same man I was before, but a better one. Stronger, wiser, and ready for whatever's next. That's what betrayal teaches you. Don't trust blindly. Keep your guard up. And most importantly, never let anyone take away your peace without a fight.